phase of this painting process. I was explaining a little while ago that I decided to establish my lightest, brightest area. Boom, there it is. And the reason for that is that now that establishes an end point, a goal. I can't get any brighter, lighter, brighter than that. That's it. That means now that everything else in the painting has to come up. Before I put that there, the whole canvas was rather dull, dark, and I could fool myself if I inched my way up toward lightness. I might think I'd arrived when I got at a 1, when in fact I had to get all the way to a 0. 0 being on a grayscale, the lightest, brightest, whitest. So anyway, so that's established, and as you can see now, all the rest, and I did, of course, then I did little bits here and there, especially this boat. As you can see, though, everything that I haven't done looks rather dull in comparison, which is good, because it was dull. I said a little while ago that it isn't necessary, it's not a rule, that every painting should have every color in the rainbow in it. It's not a bad idea to have a full range of colors, but in my opinion, it is pretty important that every painting have a full range of values in it. Not just the darkest darks and the lightest lights. Those are like anchor points. But in between those two points, there should be a range of values, in my opinion, and that's pretty standard thinking, I think, among artists and photographers. Think of a good black and white photograph. Think of an Ansel Adams photograph. It's got blackest blacks, lightest lights, and every value in between. And that kind of stuff doesn't just happen. That happens because Ansel Adams knew what he was doing. Okay, so you know what, on second thought, I think instead of starting there with the water, I think it'd be wiser to start with the sky. That's the area that's actually bothering me the most, is the lack of light in the sky. And again, this didn't look too dark until now. Now it puts it in perspective and go, oh, wait a minute. It really is dark. It's not bright enough at all, is it? So now that I've got that standard established on the canvas, I can come in here and get my every other value up to the right level. I'm looking at the photograph a little bit, not a ton. Which way do I want my clouds to go? I'm going to do just a hint. Yep. I'm going to do just a hint of cloud stuff. I'm going to come back and scumble that out, so smooth that out a little bit. But I think that's the direction I want the bands of clouds to go. So they're pointing this direction. Yeah. Now, maybe do I want this one pointing? I might. It can be overdone, but let's try that. Now, again, anytime you do a lot of scumbling, like this is called scumbling, right? Dry brush, dry opaque paint, spread out very thinly. That's scumbling. It makes the sound it makes is scumble, scumble, scumble. Anytime you do scumbling, in my opinion, that cannot be the last word. That's not the end of the day. Because the scumbling texture is not a masterful one. It's not good painting. You can get the color you want real easily doing that. So I mentioned this yesterday. So get the color that you want, the value, the color that you want using scumbling, but then come back after that and do some real painting with real paint. Again, I'm doing more scumbling to get the value, to get the color and value right where I want it. But then you come back and do some real painting, which means you put paint down and leave marks. Don't, at some point, you have to be brave and leave marks and not just brush them all out. No brushy, brushy, brushy. There's a time and a place for brushy, brushy, and it's when you are intentionally, I like to say, obfuscating texture, when you're intentionally smoothing out. But the whole world of painting is not smoothing out. Okay, now, having done that, that brings up a whole new possibility. I don't have any blue sky in this blue sky. Funny, it looked like a blue sky a while ago, but now that I've got clouds in it, it doesn't look like a blue sky at all. So it gives me a good opportunity to come in here somewhere and do some bluer stuff. I'm mixing up a little bit of phthalo and a little bit of ultramarine to get right in the middle. Birds are gorgeous out here this afternoon. I'm not sure what's going on, but they sure are. Don't know what kind of bird it is. Sure making some pretty sounds. A lot of variety. Doing sky blue last. Not doesn't mean I'm not going to come back and do anything else, but at the moment I'm doing it last. Is kind of like doing sky holes in trees, right? This blue color is further away than the clouds. Clouds are in front of it, of course. But the fact that I'm doing the blue on top of the cloud-ish color gives our brain a little bit of that puzzle that it enjoys. Our brain enjoys being, it gets tickled, it enjoys being fooled a little bit by what's in front of what. Does that make sense? In real life, the blue is far away, but in nature. But in my painting, the blue paint is closer than, and it creates a little tiny bit of confusion, visual confusion. Same thing with sky holes. And usually in life, a little finger painting here, usually in life we don't like confusion. But when it comes to painting, all bets are off. There's a lot of times that confusion is actually quite pleasant. Ooh, there we go. And again, this is part of the reason I don't use cobalt, because I like the freedom to use my fingers. You know what's happening? I'm getting these bands of clouds are too uniform. If I fill in this area, that'll help a little bit. Yeah, that's okay. I'm going to paint with a rag. Oops. And I'm probably, by the way, I'm going to come back and do a little bit more light cloud. Boy, I sure am working a long time on this sky, aren't I? You can see it all right? Barely. Let me turn you up just a little bit and zoom in. By the way, my tripod broke yesterday. The gooseneck broke, so my tripod is not as stable as it's supposed to be. Okay, I think that'll do. Okay, now a little bit over here. Okay, let me back out so you can see the whole painting now. And to wrestle with my broken gooseneck. Sorry for all the shaking here. Okay. Now that I've got that partly established anyway, now that gives me a boundary. I know how far, what color to do this water in. By the way, now I'm painting water between the whatever this is called, guardrails. I know that's not what it's called, but the railing on the boat, right? So I'm playing with that same exact principle of our ilex being fooled by what's on top of what. In other words, I'm painting water that's further away and the railings are up close, right? Gives us a little bit of visual game that our eyes enjoy. I need to look at the photograph here and see what's happening in the window, in the windshield. Nothing. It's pure dark in the windshield that I don't like very much. So I'm going to pretend it's not pure dark, okay? I might come back and darken these a little bit, but I want to put a little bit more energy in there than is in the photograph. Okay, now to this side of the water. By the way, I like that shape that I did over there. I think I'm going to leave that the way it is. Okay. Now let's tackle the lighthouse. Take a moment to clean these brushes. And again, just for what it's worth, I'm going to switch brushes. Why? I could do the whole painting with these two brushes. But that would tend to lead to monotony. People would be able to discern, you see the same brush strokes over and over and over again. That would not be so pleasant. Okay, changing my mind here slightly. Before I do the lighthouse, I want to do a little bit more in these clouds. Okay. Now, just warming up the white just a tiny bit with some Naples yellow. Let's take another look at the photograph and refresh my memory about the real shape of this lighthouse. It flares out just a little more than I have it right now, so let's bring that out just a little bit. I want to make this edge of the lighthouse quite soft. Very, very soft. Because it's far away, it's hazy. I don't want to, plus I've actually got something going on here. If I was at home I have an X-Acto knife that is a rounded blade, a curved blade. Every once in a while I'll get some underpainting, some ridges in the underpainting that is troublesome. That's what I'm getting right here. At home I have a perfect blade for this. That blade I just used, as you could hear, was a little bit dull. Let's see if it was able to do the job. I was just trying to, I don't want a ridge right there in the paint. I want it to be smooth, and it wasn't smooth. So I'm trying to scrape it off and then paint over it. Still not working. Exact still showing up. Okay, now let's try a clean brush and back to some cleaner white. Let's see if I can put some light white on top of that. So there you go. How to get rid of a ridge. I could have done that. I should have showed that to you really up close, shouldn't I? Sometimes the underpainting does get in the way. You end up with little ridges where you don't want them. Doesn't happen too often, but every once in a while. Yeah, I think I'm okay now. Let's soften the edge of that lighthouse again, just a little bit. Paint with fingers. I think that's okay. I'm going to come into this side of the lighthouse and do just a little bit of shaping, drawing, if you will. Let's make this the dark side of the lighthouse a little bit more accurate. There's a railing that goes around the top. I think that's good enough. I'll stand back and look at it for a minute. I should be using my left hand for this. I'm going to have to do some more gray stuff. Mixing up some gray, cool gray, to do this cloud that's going behind the lighthouse. Boy, I'm really messing with this sky, aren't I? I don't usually spend a fraction of this amount of time Hope I'm doing the right thing. That's all. Just hope I'm doing the right thing. It's more realistic sky than what I normally do. Okay, I'm going to leave it. I'll look at it later. Now, let me step back. This is probably a good place for me to pause. A little bit of sun on this side of that house. A little bit of some building over here. I don't know what it is. Another building back here. Okay, this is a good place for me to pause, even briefly. I think the next thing I'm going to tackle is this dock. The rest of the painting might be pretty close to finished. I don't know. I'll let you know when I come back. Thanks for watching.